one of the most important issues in our country, I would say. They call it mental health these days. But the pivot point of all of this is clearly phones. And we give these things to our kids, and we just introduce them to this world of anxiety, and it is brutal, and it's almost cruel. And more people are waking up to it, and that I'm grateful for. Jill Simonian is here. She's the director of outreach for the wonderful PragerU Kids. It's a new documentary that they have called The Void. Jill, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? Good morning.
I'm grateful to hear, and thanks for talking about this. How do you assess this problem?
Okay, so I'm a mom of two kids who are entering their teen years. And I got to tell you, this is not coming from one of those, ivory tower sanctimony places, but it's very twisted because I am so happy that everyone is finally waking up to this problem that we have about giving kids phones, because I have been shouting from the rooftop for a decade, at least, to stop giving toddlers, children, preteens. I've been screaming to stop giving them their own screens because of the exact reasons we see unfolding now with the mental health crisis. This is the most depressed, most detached generation, Gen Z. They're more anxious than ever. They cannot fill this void. I know that's the title of our short documentary, but we called it The Void on PragerU.com for a reason. They cannot fill this void of emptiness because they are flat out addicted to these screens.
I was watching some video, some debate, and some guy was making the argument that one of the problems in our country is that fewer people are going to church and blah, blah, and the problems that come with that. And this guy said, whoa, what's the big deal? We have fewer people going to church than ever, but the violent crime rate is down. That was his argument. And first of all, it's that's not even true, but whatever.
Right.
But that's not the only marker of health is murder. Like if murder is your standard for whether or not our country is doing well.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of other metrics to look at, and what we're seeing with our kids and their mental states has never been seen like this. How do you
true.
Articulate that?
It's true. Well, here's the thing. We got to look back. So, okay, hello, we're in 2024, right? 2015. I'm looking at this as a parent. I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a teacher. I create shows for PragerU Kids, but I am not a certified teacher. I am a mother who has a background in mainstream media. 2015, so I pay attention, right? 2015, American Academy of Pediatrics said that if you give your toddler more than 2 hours of screen time a day, they're almost 8 times more likely to develop an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD, by the time that they turn 5. My sister is a teacher. 8 years ago, I remember this when my kids were starting kindergarten, and I remember 8 years ago, my sister said, and at the time she was a kindergarten teacher, and she said, you would not believe the amount of kids that are coming into the classroom now, kindergartners, with depleted fine motor skills because they have been swiping the screen for, since they were 1 or 2 years old. And so these problems, now, the AAP, I am not here to tout the AAP because the Lord knows they have problems on, I personally can no longer say that I trust the American Academy of Pediatrics. However, back in 2015, almost 10 years ago, they were saying, hey, maybe we should rethink giving children screens. And we're seeing it now because we see at 2016, there were neuroscientists that were conducting studies, the NIH was conducting studies, and they were citing that the effects of screen time, addictive screen time on teenagers' brains was similar to the effect of brains on cocaine. Okay? So we're looking at these findings from almost a decade ago, and then now we're seeing more teenagers than ever get to the hospital because they're because of suicide attempts. We're looking at elementary school age children who cannot achieve proficient levels. And I know that there are issues in the education system, but we're looking at kids with severe behavioral disorders who can't get through a day of school because they have some sort of mental block, because they have some sort of behavioral disorder, because they're disrupting the classroom. All of these things, correlation does not equal causation, but all of these things are adding up, and we have to look at what's in front of us. Parents have been giving kids screens. The schools have been giving kids screens at their disposal with unfettered access, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all.
No. But to my original point, but they're not murdering people. It's like, okay.
Right.
Well, we got a million other problems that this is causing. We're talking to Jill Simonian. She's from PragerU Kids. So I was in California this weekend. I was speaking at a pro-life center. And whenever I go speak at these pro-life centers, I was asked to stay at someone's house as opposed to a hotel. Saves them some money, and it's also kind of fun to stay with people who are there. So I stayed, who are connected to the center. So I stayed with this wonderful family, and they had maybe a 10 and a 12-year-old. And I was talking to the husband and wife, and wonderful kids. The kids were like amazing. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, what's up with your kids? And they're like, well, 3 years ago, maybe less than, they took all their screens away.
Yeah.
Like, we're done. And the mom said, I didn't like my daughter anymore. Like, I didn't like the person she was becoming. I just didn't like her. She was becoming not a good person.
Yeah.
And they took them away. And she said it took a couple weeks, and their whole life changed. The whole family dynamic, everything changed in their whole life. And I saw the kids when they got back home from school, and I walked past their living room, and there were 3 kids in the living room drawing quietly.
Yes, I know, right?
I was like,
and
what is happening here? So they filled the void with other things very quickly.
Yes, and they do. And that's one thing. Like I said, I'm a mom, and trust me, I know what it's like to have the 2 kids under the age of 2 in a restaurant. I know what it's like to go out with your kid. I know it is very hard to live in a world to resist giving your kid the phone to keep them quiet, or giving them the phone because they're complaining. But I am also a mom, and my husband follows my lead on this because I'm very passionate about this particular topic. I do not allow my kids to sit there with the phone, with the screen. We have limits. My daughter is a teenager, an early teenager, and we got her a phone. There is no internet on it. There are no social media apps. The phone literally lives in the kitchen in the public place. She's not allowed to have it in her room. We have time limits on it. It is a communication device only for, if she goes to her rehearsal without me or such and such, and I say, okay, take this, call me if you're done with rehearsal to pick you up early. There's nothing on that phone. That phone is neutered, and it is a communication device. And that is how I think all parents and teachers, anyone who cares about children, we have to shift our focus to just go back to basics. And they're going to complain. And it's really hard to say, no, I'm not going to let you sit there and watch things on the internet. My gosh. I mean, Mike, what's on YouTube now for kids. And we have to shift our focus to getting back to utilizing technology in a way that's educational for our kids. And I mean, this is something that the irony of all this, people say, oh, well, Julie, you work for a media company. You make digital content for kids. I go, yeah, I make digital content for kids to watch with their parents in an educational setting with a limited time use so that parents and kids and teachers can discuss these topics with children. Yes, I don't watch it so kids can sit there and scroll.
Yeah. No, mindless, dead brain scrolling is not the plan here. Tell us more about PragerU Kids. What's going on over there?
We're now in our third year. We're in our third year. We launched in 2021, and we are making videos. We have over 800 pieces of content for kindergarten through 12th grade now, and that includes videos, worksheets, lesson plans for history, civics, financial literacy. Our financial literacy show, it's shamefully blissful for me to admit that I have learned everything I know about financial literacy from this show Cash Course that we do. We have a show about biographies, presidents, all set with, game shows. We have an unboxed show that kids unbox these clues about the different states and the history of our different states. And we're teaching kids what should be taught, our American values, the core knowledge that we should all share as Americans, no matter where we come from.
Right.
Everything's free on our website, PragerUKids.com. But it's understanding that kids are in a mental health crisis now. And I call it because of lazy parenting and education. We have been swooped away thinking, oh, children need access to technology constantly in order to keep up with the world. No, they absolutely do not. We are parents who need to pay attention to what our children are watching, when they're watching it. We need to make sure that we preserve human to human interaction with kids, let them be bored. I'm a big believer in letting them be bored.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Going back to basics.
Where can people access PragerU Kids?
PragerUKids.com. It's on our website. Everything's for free. And we're really happy actually to partner now. We've partnered with 8 states to have our content approved if teachers would like to use it as an optional supplemental resource, like inside their classrooms, to teach history or civics. Because we know that a lot of times we have a great constitutional guide for kids, understanding the Constitution. We also have a great understanding the Constitution guide for adults too on PragerU.com, and everything is free. And we're just really passionate about educating people in a sound and healthy way about the foundation of our country and what we can do to keep this country the country that it was meant to be. Land of the free and home of the brave, right?
Everyone knows PragerU is amazing. So
Yeah,
good for you
thank
guys
you.
for expanding out into the kids' realm.
Thank
Talking
you.
about a space that we need truth to be brought into. So this documentary in particular, if you need further reinforcement, or maybe how about this, Jill? Maybe one parent has a conviction about this and another parent doesn't have as strong of a conviction. That can be tricky. So maybe we can watch this video together and try to get some parents on the same page with this as well. So
and that's the thing. The Void is there for free, and we've got Zuby, the rapper, Chris Williamson. We have Nisha Petrov, who's an influencer, and it's just a really raw, difficult look at what's going on with young people. And I encourage everyone to watch it on PragerU.com.
The Void, finding happiness in a world of escapism. Jill, wonderful to talk to you. Thank you, ma'am.
Great to talk to you. Thank you.